Until about a year ago, the Titans were the end-all be-all of the Warcraft universe. Literal planets that were born, that freed Azeroth from the Black Empire and shaped almost the entire world, creating Ulduar, the Titan Watchers, and most of the current playable races. However, with the recent retcons and things we've learned, it seems like all they're doing is just impersonating the first ones. Titanforged seem like the Automa, their testing grounds are like Zereth Mortis, and all things are pointing that the Titans are really not at all significant, or at least not as much as we had believed. Have the Titans really been reduced to just first one impersonators and glorified roleplayers in Shadowlands? At first, I was a bit skeptical about this wallet, but Ridge, the sponsor of this video, sent it to me about a year and a half ago, and really I've not used any other wallet since then. It is actually great. You can put 12 cards inside, and you can put cash here as well, and there are over 30 colors and styles you can choose from. Check out my link in the description to get a 10% discount with code DORON and get your own Ridge wallet. The Titans were the real OGs of Warcraft, the original gods. They always had a presence, and the dwarves were constantly searching for their ancestors, but around Wrath of the Lich King, their lore really started developing. We first discovered Ulduar and the corrupted Titan Keepers. We started learning about the crazy Titan influence and how they shaped most of the races and how others evolved from these primordial versions. Then we got to Oldhim, which was hidden, and we learned that this was a failsafe mechanism. Then the Chronicle came out and it gave us a completely new spin on these creators. We realized that the Titans are initially nascent world souls that over time awaken if given the right conditions, and in fact over time a pantheon of them did form, and we had these god-like beings walking the cosmos searching for their brethren. Then, the strongest of them, Sargeras, was corrupted by the Void Lords, and you know the rest of the story. Well, at least there was the lore until about 6 months ago, but everything changed with the Grimoire of the Shadowlands and beyond, and the most recent hints in both 9.1 and 9.2. We got a perspective of one of the brokers that changed our entire view on these cosmological god-like beings of Order. A broker scholar has been searching for the Sepulchre, and he scoured everything from other realms of the afterlives to other planets and even Azeroth, and we got a really interesting conversation with a philosopher from our planet. To sum it up real quick, the broker realized that our scholar is essentially just a simpleton and that everything we have ever known about the Titans is a lie, and apparently most of our history is written from their very biased perspective. Here's the thing, the Titans long ago freed the planet from the Black Empire. They created the Titan Forged, and from the Titan Forged we got most of the races. Humans came from the Vrykul, dwarves from the Earthen, gnomes from the Mechanomes, and even the Night Elves, who are seemingly native trolls, were changed by the Well of Eternity, which as far as we knew until now was the blood of a Titan world soul. Even the orcs themselves are actually Titan creations just from Titan Order Draenor that now had arrived to Azeroth. As you can imagine, most of our history was created from these sources as we learned about the Titans, but then the broker came in out of nowhere and dispelled the myth for us, as he came from a completely non-Azeroth biased perspective. He apparently revealed to us that the Titans are just liars. The brokers said something along the lines of, wow, how typical for the Titans to write all history to be favorable to them, and how typical of them to take credit for what they did not create. They even go as far as to use the same word for order and create in their own language, so that it appears that they create worlds, but instead they just inherited everything from the first ones, which are apparently the real and the true creators. So this was the very first big earthquake that hit the biggest foundation of the lore established by the Chronicle. However, if you followed the 9.1 and 9.2 stuff, I feel like they may be taking it just a bit too far. Seriously, the hints right now are pointing at the fact that the Titans are just loser impersonators and that they're really not that big of a deal. Let's take a look at a few very large hints you may have missed by this point. So let's get back to Azeroth, to the time in history when the Titans defeated the Black Empire. In order to wage war, they created a Titan Forged in their own image to do the fighting. After the old gods were defeated, they set up these keepers and various other constructs in order to maintain the planet, and they also made up just a bunch of mechanisms. First we had Algalon, the Constellar in Uldra, to wipe out the planet in case of corruption. Then we had witnessed this mechanism in Oldham. Then they had all these various outposts, and all of the Titan Forge had various roles from research to maintenance. Well, guess what? We're seeing that exactly in Zereth Mortis, the Automa. The Automa are first one creations that pretty much have the exact same role to maintain the realm, and much like the Titan Forge, they also have their own roles, and there is even a Constellar in the Sepulchre. So are the Titan Forged, and by extent most of the current playable races, just discount Automa ripoffs created by the Titans in order for them to feed their egos and to feel like the big guys, aka the first ones? Second, let's take a look at the biggest hint. You know how Zereth Mortis is apparently the engine and the testing grounds of the first ones? They have the various prototypes, initial versions, and whatever else is inside their realm. Well, this is exactly what the Titans had done until recently on many occasions. While the Emerald Dream is confusing as hell and may change yet again, before, we believed that the Emerald Dream was essentially just a backup copy of Azeroth's nature with various layers and versions that can be changed, as well as being a testing ground akin to Zereth Mortis. Then we had the Titan experiments on old gods, creating monstrosities such as Gahun, and as we go even further, we have Titan Keepers, which are embodiments of Titans doing their own experiments as well. Freya, for example, used the Goro Crater to experiment on various life forms, create wildlife, and all sorts of stuff, pretty much just doing a mini Zereth Mortis on Azeroth. As was said in the preview, this is exactly what Automa are doing in Zereth Mortis, and they literally just created lush forests from deserts in this place, very similar to what the Titan Forge and the Titans had done to Azeroth. So, I think you can see where I'm going with this here. Do you see the similarities? Why are the Titans doing the exact same things as the first ones, just on a smaller scale? Are they really just losers pretending to be gods? As in, they saw or heard that the first ones are doing this, so we wanna be cool as well and we wanna do this too. Well, that could be the case, but the story can go other ways as well. A big hint is that the Titans may have been created by these architects of the universe, and that this order and creation is just an innate trait. Seriously, it seems to go down the line. First ones have the big testing grounds, the Titans have the smaller one, and the Titan Keepers a notch below have an even smaller version. Recently, it was revealed that in 9.2 we will encounter the Eternal Ones, aka the Pantheon of Death, which are known as the Titans of Death within the Sepulchre. We will apparently meet the prototype versions of Denatrius, Keresti, and the like, which may imply that they were created directly by the first ones. Now, as the Eternal Ones are the leaders of one of the 6 opposing cosmological forces, if we use that logic, does it also mean that the leaders of others, such as Order, were built by the first ones as well? Could this be a confirmation that the Titans are just high-end Automa that maintain the Order side of things of the cosmos? On the other side, there are also speculations that the two could be competing forces on who is going to order more of the universe, or that they may just be the exact same thing. However, at this point, all things are hinting at the fact that the first ones are the most important beings, and that the Titans are just a lot less significant than we once believed them to be. Thank you for watching. Check out the hints for the next expansion by clicking on the screen, and also check out the Nodes Academy for videos on real world history. See you next time.